My son threw my pill bottle at the wall and screamed, "We're not a charity, move out." I'm Devlin Johnson, and at 69, I thought I'd raised him better than that. What my fintech CEO son didn't know was this. While he was embarrassed by his burden of a father, I'd been quietly building a $12.5 million investment empire, including stakes in 3 unicorns that made his startup look like pocket change. And when he decided treating his grieving father like a charity case was acceptable, I realized it was time to show him what real charity looked like. I didn't yell back. I didn't argue. I just walked to my desk and began a process that would change everything he thought he knew about power. Sometimes the people who underestimate you the most are the ones who should know you the best. And sometimes the quietest response is the loudest statement you can make. If you're watching this, I'd love to know where you're from. Stories like this remind us that respect shouldn't depend on age or appearance. But to understand why what happened next mattered so much, I need to take you back 18 months, when I lost the love of my life. Adela died on a Tuesday morning in March. Pancreatic cancer, 6 months from diagnosis to goodbye. Stephen flew in from Silicon Valley for the funeral, stayed 3 days, then asked if I wanted to come stay with him for a while. Just until I got back on my feet, he said. I should have known better. By the time I moved into his $3.2 million house in Palo Alto, the signs were already there. 2 signs that told me exactly how my own son saw me. First sign, the grocery receipts. Every week, Stephen would leave them on the kitchen counter. Highlighted, circle around the total. $37 for my diabetes medication pickup. $42 for the groceries I'd bought. Like I was some tenant behind on rent. "Dad, just want to make sure we're tracking expenses," he'd say, sliding the receipt toward me like evidence in a court case. I'd pull out my worn leather wallet, the same one Adela bought me in 1987, and count out exact change. Every time. Stephen would watch me count those bills like he was doing me some enormous favor by accepting them. The second sign came 3 weeks later. Stephen was on a video call with investors. I walked past his home office to get my evening pills, wearing my cardigan with the hole near the left elbow. Adela used to say she'd fix that hole. Never got the chance. Through his glass door I heard him say, "Sorry about the background noise. My father's staying with us temporarily. He's adjusting to some health issues." Health issues, like grief, was a medical condition that could be cured with the right pill dosage. After his call ended, Stephen found me in the kitchen, organizing my weekly pill container. 7 compartments for 7 days. Diabetes medication, blood pressure pills, the works. Getting old isn't cheap. "Dad, we need to talk about boundaries," he said, pulling out one of his $40,000 Herman Miller chairs. "When I'm in meetings, I need you to stay in your room. These are important people." Important people. Not like his father, apparently. "I understand, Stephen. And maybe we should look into some other arrangements. Long term." He pulled out a glossy brochure from his laptop bag. Sunset Manor Assisted Living, $8,000 a month. I'd seen the place. Nice enough if you enjoyed watching other people wait to die. "I'm not ready for that," I said quietly. "Dad, I'm trying to build something here. Payflow is at a critical stage. We're raising our Series C round. I can't have..." He gestured vaguely at my pill container. "I can't have distractions." Distractions. That's what I'd become. But here's what Stephen didn't know about his distraction of a father. Every morning while he was at his important meetings, I'd sit at the antique mahogany desk in his guest room, the one Adela and I bought at an estate sale in 1993 for $2,800. I'd pull out my old Nokia phone, the one Stephen always made fun of, and make calls that would have changed everything he thought he knew about his old man. I'd review documents that Stephen walked past every day without a second glance. Documents in a blue leather binder that contained 847 pages of investment contracts. But I kept quiet, because part of me still hoped that my son's success hadn't completely erased the boy Adela and I raised. The boy who used to help his mother with her crossword puzzles. The boy who cried when our neighbor's cat died. I was wrong. The first mention of relocation came on a Thursday morning in October. I was reading Adela's old copy of Pride and Prejudice. She'd dog-eared page 237, where Elizabeth finally tells Mr. Darcy exactly what she thinks of him, when Stephen walked into the kitchen with his laptop and a manila folder. "Dad, I've been thinking about our conversation." He opened the folder. Inside were more brochures. Sunset Manor, Golden Years Community, Peaceful Meadows Retirement Village, each one with the monthly cost circled in red ink. 8,000, 9,500, 12,000. These places have activities, Stephen said, spreading the brochures across the granite countertop like a real estate presentation. Social interaction, medical staff on site. It might be better for you, better for me, or better for him. I'm not ready to leave, Stephen. Dad, be realistic. You're 79. You take 7 different medications. What if something happens when I'm traveling? I counted the pills in my morning container. He was right about the medications. Metformin for diabetes, lisinopril for blood pressure, a baby aspirin Adela's doctor recommended, the little white pills that kept an old accountant's heart beating. I can take care of myself. Stephen's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his expression shifted. Business mode. Actually, that's exactly what I wanted to discuss. He pulled out his business card holder, 18-karat gold, a gift to himself when Payflow hit 50 million in revenue. Behind his business cards was another business card, Janet Morrison, real estate specialist, senior living transitions. I already called her, Stephen said. She can walk us through options next week. The sooner we start this process, the better. Process. Like I was some inefficient workflow that needed optimization. But Stephen didn't see the envelope I'd received that morning. Addressed to H.J. Consulting, forwarded from my old accounting firm. The return address read, TechCrunch Disrupt Conference Committee. Inside was an invitation printed on heavy cardstock. We would be honored to have you join us as a VIP angel investor attendee at this year's conference. Your contributions to the startup ecosystem have been remarkable. Angel investor tier, VIP access, all conference pass. Stephen would be keynoting at that same conference in 3 days. Payflow's big moment. His chance to announce their Series C funding round to 2,000 of Silicon Valley's most influential people. He had no idea his father would be in the audience. The envelope also contained something else, a Forbes magazine clipping from 6 months ago. A small mention in their Silent Players column, HJ Consulting continues to be one of the most mysterious and successful angel investors in Silicon Valley, with an uncanny ability to identify unicorns before they gallop. Unicorns. In Silicon Valley terms, that means startups worth over $1 billion. I'd identified 3 of them. But Stephen was still talking about assisted living facilities, completely oblivious to the man sitting across from him. The deposits are fully refundable if you change your mind within 30 days, he said, sliding a Sunset Manor application toward me. I can drive you there this weekend for a tour. I folded the Forbes clipping and tucked it back into the envelope. Stephen, what if I told you I wasn't the burden you think I am? He looked up from his laptop. Dad, this isn't about being a burden. It's about what's practical. What if I told you there are things about your old man you don't know? Stephen's expression was the same one he'd used when I tried to explain how a rotary phone worked. Patient but dismissive. Dad, I know you had a good career, but times have changed. This is about your safety and my peace of mind. Safety. Peace of mind. All very reasonable words that meant one thing. He wanted me gone. The question was, what was I going to do about it? The fight started over dinner on Friday night. Stephen had ordered sushi from some place that charged $38 for 6 pieces of raw fish. I was eating leftover meatloaf Adela's recipe, heated in the microwave because I couldn't figure out his smart oven's touchscreen. Dad, we need to discuss timeline. Timeline for what? Your transition. Janet Morrison can meet us Tuesday. I set down my fork. I'm not ready. Ready or not, it's happening. That's when I made my mistake. I tried to reason with him. Stephen, what if I told you I have assets you don't know about? He looked up from his phone. What kind of assets? Investments. Business interests. Stephen laughed. Not a mean laugh, exactly. More like the sound you make when a child claims they can fly. Dad, your pension covers your medical expenses. Barely. Mom's life insurance paid for the funeral. I've seen the numbers. You've seen some numbers. What's that supposed to mean? I walked to the guest room and came back with my old Nokia phone, the one he always mocked for being outdated. This phone received 4 calls today, I said. Business calls. Stephen's expression shifted from amusement to concern, like maybe his father was developing dementia along with diabetes. Dad, who's calling you for business? People you'd recognize. What people? Entrepreneurs, CEOs, investors. Stephen set down his chopsticks. Dad, are you...
Are you okay? Mentally, I mean? That stung more than I expected. I'm fine, Stephen. Because sometimes grief can cause confusion. False memories. It's normal. False memories. He thought I was losing my mind. I'm not confused. Then explain to me how a retired accountant from Nebraska is getting business calls from CEOs.
The way he said retired accountant from Nebraska, like it was some kind of genetic defect, told me everything I needed to know about what my son really thought of me. Maybe your old man is more than you think. Dad, please, I'm trying to help you here. Are you? Or are you trying to help yourself? Stephen's jaw tightened. That's not fair. Isn't it? When's the last time you asked how I'm doing? Really asked? I ask all the time. You ask about my medications, my doctor appointments, my expenses. When's the last time you asked about Mom? About how I miss her? Stephen's phone buzzed. He glanced at it automatically. Don't, I said. Don't what? Look at your phone when I'm talking about your mother. Dad, this is important. More important than this conversation? Stephen picked up his phone anyway, started typing. That's when I knew for certain. The boy Adela raised was gone. In his place sat a stranger who happened to share my DNA. You know what, Stephen? You're right. He looked up from his phone. Right about what? I should move out. Relief flickered across his face before he could hide it. Dad, it's not that I don't want you here. Yes, it is. It's just complicated. No, it's simple. You're embarrassed by me. Stephen set down his phone. That's not true. Isn't it? When's the last time you introduced me to your friends, your colleagues? Silence. When's the last time you mentioned your father to anyone at Payflow? More silence. I have my answer. Stephen's phone buzzed again. This time he ignored it, but I could see him wanting to check it. Could see how much effort it took him to keep his attention on our conversation. Dad, you don't understand the pressure I'm under. Enlighten me. Payflow is 3 months from either closing our Series C or shutting down. I have 47 employees depending on me, investors asking hard questions, board meetings every week. And somehow your grieving father makes all of that harder? It's not that simple. It is that simple. You want me gone so you can focus on your important life without distractions. Stephen stood up from the table. Fine. You want honesty? Here's honesty. Here it comes, I thought. I can't have my father living in my guest room when I'm trying to raise $30 million. These investors are betting on my judgment, my focus, my ability to execute. And having a father disqualifies you? Having a father who needs constant care while I'm trying to scale a company? Yes. Constant care. Like I was some invalid instead of the man who'd raised him. I see. Do you? Because I don't think you understand what I'm building here. Educate me. Payflow is going to revolutionize how small businesses handle cash flow. We're talking about changing how commerce works, but that only happens if I can stay focused. Stay focused, without distractions like me. Well then, I said quietly, I guess we'd better get me out of your way. The next morning, Stephen left for his Saturday morning run at exactly 7:15. Same route every weekend. Down University Avenue, through Stanford campus, back home in 43 minutes, which gave me exactly enough time for my weekly ritual. I pulled the blue leather portfolio from my desk drawer, 847 pages of investment contracts organized chronologically from oldest to newest, 6 years of work that Stephen walked past every day without knowing what it was. The first investment was dated March 15th, 2018. Stripe Series C round. I'd put in $50,000 when they were processing payments for internet businesses nobody had heard of. That $50,000 was worth $800,000 today. The second contract was dated June 3rd, 2018. A little company called DoorDash that wanted to deliver restaurant food to people's homes. I'd invested $40,000 when everyone thought it was a stupid idea. That $40,000 was worth $1.2 million today. But the big one, the one that changed everything, was dated September 21st, 2019. SpaceX, private placement round. $100,000 when Elon Musk was still considered a crazy person who wanted to shoot cars into space. That investment alone was now worth $3.8 million. Stephen had no idea his father owned a piece of the company that launched astronauts to the International Space Station. My Nokia phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I recognized. HJ Consulting, this is Devlin. Devlin, it's Jennifer Walsh from the TechCrunch Conference Committee. Jennifer had been my primary contact for 3 years. She knew HJ Consulting was a single-person operation, but she didn't know HJ stood for Devlin Johnson. She didn't know I was anybody's father, let alone the father of one of her keynote speakers. Jennifer, good to hear from you. I wanted to confirm your VIP attendance for Wednesday. We have you seated in the Angel Investor section front row. Front row. 20 feet from the stage where Stephen would be presenting Payflow's big announcement. I'll be there. Wonderful. Also, David Rodriguez from our editorial team wants to schedule a quick interview about your investment philosophy. You've become quite the legend around here. Legend. If only Stephen could hear this conversation. I prefer to keep a low profile, Jennifer. I understand, but David's piece on Silicon Valley's most mysterious angel investor has been our most read article this year. The community is curious about HJ Consulting. After I hung up, I opened my laptop. Not the decrepit machine Stephen assumed I was struggling with, but a custom-built MacBook Pro with enough processing power to run real-time market analysis. 3 new emails in my HJ Consulting account. The first was from Andreessen Horowitz, asking if I wanted to co-invest in their latest AI fund. Minimum investment, $5 million. The second was from the CEO of a biotech startup in South San Francisco. They were developing a new treatment for pancreatic cancer, the same cancer that killed Adela. They wanted HJ Consulting to lead their Series B round. The third email made me smile. It was from Payflow's CFO, a woman named Rebecca Martinez, who had no idea she was emailing her CEO's father. Dear HJ Consulting, the email read, we know you typically invest in post-revenue companies, but Payflow represents a unique opportunity. We're announcing our Series C funding round at TechCrunch Disrupt this Wednesday. Would you consider joining our round? Payflow was asking HJ Consulting to invest in Payflow. Stephen's company wanted money from the father he was trying to move into assisted living. I closed the laptop and walked to the kitchen, where Stephen was making his post-workout protein smoothie with ingredients that cost more than most people's weekly grocery budget. How was your run? I asked. Good. Cleared my head before the big week. Big week? The conference. My keynote. This could change everything for Payflow. I'm sure you'll do great. Stephen looked surprised. We hadn't been trading compliments lately. Thanks, Dad. That means something. For a moment I saw a flash of the boy he used to be, the one who'd practice his school presentations in front of me and Adela until he felt confident enough for the real thing. Will anyone from family be there? I asked. Supporting you? Family? Stephen looked confused. No, it's a business conference, very high level. You wouldn't, it's not really your thing, not my thing. He had no idea it was exactly my thing. Of course, I said. I understand. Stephen headed toward his home office, then turned back. Dad, about Tuesday. The meeting with Janet Morrison. You'll come, right? Look at the assisted living options. I thought about the email from Payflow's CFO, about the front row seat waiting for me at Wednesday's conference. Stephen, what if I told you this week was going to be full of surprises? He laughed. What kind of surprises? The good kind, for both of us. Stephen's company barbecue happened on Sunday afternoon in the backyard of Payflow's Palo Alto headquarters. 53 employees, plus their families. The kind of casual corporate event where everyone pretended to have fun while secretly networking. I wasn't supposed to be there. It's really more of a team thing, Stephen had said that morning. You'd be bored. But Jennifer Walsh had called with a last-minute request. She needed to drop off my VIP conference credentials in person. Something about security protocols for angel investor tier attendees. When I mentioned I'd be at my son's company barbecue, she offered to meet me there. Stephen's face when I walked into the backyard with a woman he didn't recognize was worth the price of admission. Dad, what are you doing here? This is Jennifer Walsh, I said. From TechCrunch. She needed to drop something off. Jennifer smiled and extended her hand to Stephen. You must be Payflow's CEO. I'm excited for your keynote Wednesday. Stephen's handshake was automatic, but his eyes were confused. Why was his father meeting with someone from TechCrunch? Jennifer was just leaving, I said quickly. Actually, Jennifer said, I wanted to thank your father personally. HJ Consulting has been one of our most valuable supporters. The confusion on Stephen's face deepened. HJ Consulting? Your father's investment firm, Jennifer said. Surely you know about his work in the startup ecosystem? Stephen's expression went through several phases. Confusion, disbelief, then something that looked like panic. I think there's been some mistake, Stephen said carefully. My father is retired. He doesn't run an investment firm. Jennifer looked from Stephen to me. Oh, I assumed you knew about his business activities. Dad? Stephen's voice had an edge to it now. What business activities? Before I could answer, Rebecca Martinez, Payflow's CFO, walked over with a beer in her hand. Stephen, who's this? She asked, nodding toward Jennifer. TechCrunch, Stephen said automatically. Jennifer Walsh. Rebecca's eyes lit up. Oh my God, you're the one who wrote that piece about the mysterious angel investor. HJ Consulting, right? I must have read that article 5 times. Actually, Jennifer said, that was David Rodriguez. But yes, HJ Consulting is fascinating. We've been trying to get an interview for months. Rebecca turned to me. Are you in the industry too, mister? Johnson, I said. Devlin Johnson. Wait, Rebecca said slowly. H.J. Devlin Johnson, are you? She looked at me, then at Stephen, then back at me. Holy shit, she whispered. You're H.J. Consulting. The conversation around us began to slow down. Other Payflow employees were starting to notice something was happening. Dad, Stephen said quietly, we need to talk, privately. But Rebecca was still talking, her voice getting louder with excitement. Stephen, do you realize who your father is? HJ Consulting has been behind some of the biggest startup successes of the last 5 years. Stripe, DoorDash, SpaceX. More heads were turning now. The Payflow team was listening. This has to be some kind of misunderstanding, Stephen said, but his voice lacked conviction. No misunderstanding, Jennifer said. Devlin here is one of Silicon Valley's most successful angel investors. We've been tracking his portfolio for years. What portfolio? Stephen asked. I pulled out my old Nokia phone. The one that's been calling me all week. Stephen's face was pale now. Dad, what's going on? Remember when I told you I had assets you didn't know about? You said investments. I thought you meant, I don't know, some old pension fund. Rebecca was staring at me like I'd just revealed I was Superman. Mr. Johnson, is it true you were an early investor in DoorDash? Series A, I said simply. And SpaceX? Private placement round. September 2019. Holy shit, she said again. Stephen, your father is worth millions. The entire barbecue had gone quiet now. 53 Payflow employees and their families were listening to this conversation. Stephen's jaw was tight. I could see him trying to process this information while maintaining his composure in front of his team. Dad, why didn't you tell me? When would I have told you? Between the assisted living brochures and the grocery receipt reviews? That hit home. Stephen's face flushed. Mr. Johnson, Rebecca said, we actually sent HJ. Consulting an investment opportunity last week. For our Series C round. Stephen looked like he'd been punched. You what? Standard outreach to angel investors. We sent it to HJ Consulting along with about 50 other potential investors. Dad, Stephen said carefully, did you get an email from Payflow? I did. And? The entire backyard was waiting for my answer. 53 employees who thought their CEO was some kind of genius, watching him discover his father was more successful than he was. I'm still considering it, I said. Jennifer looked at her watch. Devlin, I should get going. But I'll see you Wednesday, right? Front row seat in the angel investor section? Wouldn't miss it, I said. After Jennifer left, the barbecue slowly returned to normal conversations. But people kept glancing over at me, whispering. The CEO's mysterious father who turned out to be a Silicon Valley legend. Stephen pulled me aside near the grill where Payflow's head of engineering was flipping burgers. Dad, we need to go home. Now. Why? I'm enjoying myself. This is a lot to process. Is it, or are you embarrassed? I'm not embarrassed. No? Then why do you look like you want to disappear? Stephen glanced around the backyard. His employees were still stealing looks at us. We'll talk at home, he said firmly. Will we? Or will you just start planning my relocation again? Stephen didn't answer, but I could see the wheels turning behind his eyes. His father wasn't the burden he thought he was, which meant everything he'd assumed about our relationship was wrong. The ride home from the barbecue was quiet. Stephen gripped the steering wheel of his Tesla like he was trying to strangle it. When we got to his house, he went straight to his home office and closed the door. I could hear him on the phone, speaking in the low, urgent tones he used for crisis management. I went to my room and opened my laptop. 17 new emails in my HJ Consulting account. Word was spreading through Silicon Valley's gossip network faster than wildfire. The first email was from David Rodriguez at TechCrunch. Devlin, heard through the grapevine that you're Steven Johnson's father. This is the story of the century. Can we talk? The second was from Andreessen Horowitz again. HJ, we had no idea you were related to Payflow's CEO. This adds an interesting dynamic to Wednesday's announcement. The third made me pause. It was from Margaret Chen, my estate attorney and friend for 30 years. Devlin, I got your message about accelerating the inheritance documentation. Are you sure about this timing? Once we file these papers, there's no going back. I'd called Margaret yesterday after Stephen's comment about Janet Morrison and assisted living facilities. Asked her to prepare the legal documents that would formalize my decision about Stephen's inheritance. $2 million. The amount I'd set aside for my son since Adela died. The same amount I was now planning to donate to the Adela Johnson Memorial Foundation for Pancreatic Cancer Research. My phone rang. Stephen, from his office 20 feet away. Dad, can you come in here, please? His home office looked like a war room. 3 monitors showing Payflow's metrics, financial projections, and a Zoom call with what appeared to be his entire board of directors. Gentlemen, Stephen said to his laptop screen, I'd like you to meet my father, Devlin Johnson. 6 faces on the screen looked back at me. I recognized 2 of them from Forbes covers. Devlin, said a woman with silver hair. I'm Patricia Williams, board chair. Stephen's been telling us about your business activities. I'm sure he has. We had no idea Payflow's CEO was related to HJ Consulting. This is quite a development. Stephen was watching my face carefully. Dad, the board has some questions about potential conflicts of interest. What kind of conflicts? Well, said a man in an expensive suit, if you're considering investing in Payflow's Series C round, and you're also Stephen's father, you're worried about bias, I said. Something like that. Stephen leaned forward. Dad, I need to ask you directly. Are you planning to invest in Payflow? The 6 board members waited for my answer. Stephen waited. Everyone seemed to be holding their breath. That depends, I said. On what? On whether I think it's a good investment. Patricia Williams laughed. Devlin, with your track record, I think we'd all be honored to have HJ Consulting in our round. Even if the CEO is my son? Especially because the CEO is your son. You've had 25 years to evaluate his judgment. Stephen's expression was unreadable. And what's your evaluation? I looked at my son. The boy who used to help Adela with her crossword puzzles. The teenager who'd stayed up all night building a computer from spare parts. The young man who'd started Payflow in our garage with nothing but an idea and determination. Then I thought about the grocery receipts, the assisted living brochures, the way he'd introduced me at the barbecue. My evaluation, I said slowly, is that success has changed you. The Zoom call went quiet. Dad, you've built something impressive, Stephen, but you've forgotten where you came from. This isn't really the forum for family therapy, said one of the board members. Isn't it? I asked. You want to know if I'll invest in Payflow. But first, you should understand what kind of company you're really investing in. Stephen's face was pale. What's that supposed to mean? It means I've been watching how you treat people you think are beneath you, starting with your own father. The board members were looking uncomfortable now. This wasn't the kind of conversation they had expected. Devlin, Patricia said carefully, maybe we should continue this discussion privately. No, Stephen said. Let him talk. I looked at the faces on the screen. 6 people who controlled hundreds of millions in investment capital. People whose respect Stephen needed to build his empire. 3 months ago, I said, your CEO tried to move me into assisted living because having a grieving father was bad for his image. Dad, that's not... Last week, he left grocery receipts on the counter like I was some deadbeat tenant. Stephen's jaw was clenched. We're not doing this here. Yesterday, at his company barbecue, he tried to hide me from his employees because he was embarrassed by his retired accountant father. The board members were exchanging glances. This wasn't the kind of due diligence they were used to. And now, I continued, now that he knows I'm HJ Consulting, suddenly I'm welcome at the table. Devlin, Patricia said diplomatically, family dynamics can be complicated. They can be, but business ethics shouldn't be. Stephen stood up. Dad, I think that's enough. Do you? Because I'm just getting started. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out an envelope. Margaret Chen's legal documents delivered by courier an hour ago. What's that? Stephen asked. Your inheritance papers. The $2 million I set aside for you after your mother died. Stephen's eyes widened. So did the board members. I was planning to give this to you after the conference, I said. A reward for your success. Proof that your old man was proud of what you'd built. Was? Stephen's voice was barely a whisper. But then I realized something. You don't need my money. You've made it clear that you don't need my presence, and you certainly don't need my approval. I held up the envelope, so I'm donating it instead.
Donating it where? The Adela Johnson Memorial Foundation, pancreatic cancer research, in your mother's name. The Zoom call was completely silent now. $2 million that could have been yours, going to help other families avoid what we went through. Stephen was staring at the envelope like it contained a bomb. Dad, you can't be serious. I'm completely serious. The papers are already filed. Margaret Chen handled the legal work this morning. You can't just give away my inheritance. It wasn't your inheritance, Stephen. It was my money, and I can do whatever I want with it. Patricia Williams cleared her throat. Gentlemen, perhaps we should reschedule this call. No, I said. Let's finish this conversation. I looked directly at the camera. Ladies and gentlemen, you're considering investing in a company run by a man who thinks success means you can treat people like obstacles, including your own family. Stephen's face was red now. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? I stood up and walked toward the door. Wednesday's conference should be interesting, I said. I'll be in the front row when you give your keynote. Angel investor section. I paused at the doorway. Try not to be embarrassed by your father this time. Wednesday morning arrived gray and drizzling, typical October weather for the Bay Area. Stephen left for the conference center at 6 a.m. without saying goodbye. I took my time getting ready. Shower, shave, and the one good suit I'd brought from Nebraska. Navy blue wool tailored for Adela's 60th birthday party 3 years ago. She'd said it made me look distinguished. The TechCrunch Disrupt conference was being held at the Moscone Center in San Francisco. 2,800 attendees, according to the program. The biggest names in technology, all gathered to see the next billion-dollar ideas. I arrived at 9 a.m. and picked up my credentials at the VIP registration desk. The lanyard read, HJ Consulting, Angel Investor Tier. The woman behind the desk smiled like she was meeting a celebrity. Mr. Johnson, we're so honored to have you here. Your assigned seat is front row, center. Perfect view of the main stage. The Angel Investor section was roped off from general admission. 20 rows of premium seating for the people who funded Silicon Valley's dreams. I recognized half the faces from magazine covers and conference panels. At 10:15, Jennifer Walsh found me reviewing the program. Devlin, ready for the big reveal? What reveal? Jennifer grinned. David Rodriguez's article goes live at noon. The Mystery of HJ Consulting, Silicon Valley's most successful secret, complete with photos from yesterday's barbecue. My stomach dropped. Photos? Don't worry, you look distinguished. Very mysterious angel investor. Stephen's keynote was scheduled for 11 a.m., 1 hour to go. At 10:30, Margaret Chen arrived and took the seat next to me. She'd driven up from her law office in San Jose, carrying a leather briefcase that contained the final paperwork for the donation. The Adela Johnson Memorial Foundation is officially established, she said quietly. $2 million transferred this morning. The board of directors includes 3 oncologists from UCSF and Dr. Patricia Morrison from Stanford's Cancer Research Center. Thank you, Margaret. Devlin, are you sure about this? Once Stephen finds out, he'll find out in about 30 minutes. At 10:45, the lights dimmed, and Jennifer Walsh took the stage to introduce the morning's keynote speakers. Stephen was third on the agenda, right after a presentation about artificial intelligence in healthcare. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Stephen Johnson, CEO and founder of Payflow, presenting the future of small business finance. The applause was polite but enthusiastic. Stephen walked onto the stage wearing his $4,000 Armani suit, the one he'd bought specifically for this moment. He looked confident, polished, every inch the successful Silicon Valley CEO. He also looked directly at me in the front row, and I saw his composure crack just slightly. Thank you, Stephen said into the microphone. I'm excited to share Payflow's vision for revolutionizing how small businesses manage cash flow. His presentation was flawless. Slides showing market opportunity,
customer acquisition metrics, revenue projections. Payflow's growth from garage startup to $180 million company in 4 years. Today, I'm proud to announce that Payflow has closed our Series C funding round, Stephen said. $35 million led by Sequoia Capital. The audience applauded. Stephen smiled and clicked to his next slide. This funding will allow us to expand into international markets and develop our AI-powered cash flow prediction platform. He was hitting all the right notes. Professional, confident, visionary. Everything a successful CEO should be. Then his phone buzzed. Stephen glanced down at his podium, where his phone was supposed to be on silent. I could see him trying to ignore it, but it buzzed again, and again. Someone in the audience was checking their phone too. Then another person, and another. That's when I realized David Rodriguez's article had gone live early. Stephen tried to continue his presentation, but a murmur was spreading through the crowd. People were pulling out their phones, reading something, then looking up at the stage with expressions of surprise. As I was saying, Stephen continued, Payflow's total addressable market represents a $40 billion opportunity. Jennifer Walsh appeared at the side of the stage, holding her phone. She was trying to get Stephen's attention without being obvious about it. Stephen saw her and paused mid-sentence. "Excuse me one moment." He walked to the edge of the stage where Jennifer stood on her tiptoes to whisper something in his ear. I watched my son's face go through several emotions in rapid succession. Confusion, realization, then something that looked like panic. He walked back to the microphone, but his confidence was gone. "Ladies and gentlemen, it appears there's been an interesting development." He looked directly at me. "It turns out that one of Silicon Valley's most successful angel investors is sitting in our audience today." The crowd turned to look at the angel investor section, but they didn't know which face to focus on. "HJ Consulting," Stephen continued, his voice carefully controlled, "has been behind some of the most successful startup investments of the last 5 years. Stripe, DoorDash, SpaceX." More murmuring from the audience. Everyone was trying to figure out which investor he was talking about. "What makes this particularly interesting," Stephen said, "is that HJ Consulting is my father." The audience went completely silent for about 3 seconds. Then the murmur became a buzz, became an excited chatter. I stood up. "Hello, everyone," I said, my voice carrying clearly in the sudden quiet. "I'm Devlin Johnson, HJ Consulting." The audience erupted. Camera flashes from the media section. People pulling out phones to record this moment. Stephen was standing on stage, microphone in hand, watching his father command the attention of 2,800 of Silicon Valley's most influential people. "Dad," he said into the microphone, "would you like to say something?" I walked to the steps leading up to the stage. 2 conference volunteers helped me up. Jennifer Walsh handed me a second microphone. "Thank you," I said to the crowd. "I didn't expect to be speaking today." Laughter from the audience. "But since we're here, I'd like to talk about something important, about respect, about family, and about the true cost of success." Stephen was watching me with an expression I couldn't read. "My son has built something remarkable with Payflow, but he's also learned some lessons that I don't think I taught him." I turned to face Stephen directly. 3 months ago, you tried to move me into assisted living because having a grieving father was bad for your image." The audience was completely silent now. "This morning, I donated your $2 million inheritance to cancer research, in your mother's name." Stephen's face went white. "Not because I don't love you, Stephen, but because I realized you don't need my money. You need to remember who you are when nobody's watching." I handed the microphone back to Jennifer and walked down the stage steps. The audience was silent for a moment. Then someone started clapping. Slowly at first, then faster. Then the entire conference center was on their feet, giving me a standing ovation. I looked back at Stephen, standing alone on the stage with his $35 million funding announcement forgotten. He looked like he wanted to disappear. For the first time in 18 months, I felt like maybe Adela would be proud of me. The video went viral before I made it back to my seat. Payflow CEO learns his father is Silicon Valley legend. HJ Consulting hit YouTube at 11:47 a.m. and had 50,000 views by noon. The clip of me donating Stephen's inheritance on stage was trending on Twitter by 12:30. David Rodriguez's TechCrunch article got picked up by Forbes, Wall Street Journal, and Bloomberg within 2 hours. The Secret Life of H.J. Consulting, how a Nebraska accountant became Silicon Valley's most mysterious investor. But the real consequences started with Steven's phone. I could see him on stage trying to finish his presentation while his phone buzzed continuously in his pocket. When he finally concluded his remarks 20 minutes later, the applause was scattered and distracted. Everyone was more interested in discussing the father-son drama than Payflow's funding round. Jennifer Walsh found me in the VIP lounge during the lunch break. "Devlin, we've got interview requests from 60 different media outlets. CNN, CNBC, Morning America. Everyone wants to talk to you." "I'm not interested in being famous, Jennifer." "Too late for that. You're already famous." She showed me her phone. The hashtag HJ Consulting was trending nationally. So was Payflow Dad. "Steven's not taking it well," she said. "He left the conference center about an hour ago. Looked pretty shaken." By 3 p.m., the financial impact was becoming clear. Payflow's valuation, which had been climbing steadily toward their Series C announcement, was starting to wobble. Not because of their business fundamentals, but because investors were questioning Steven's judgment. Margaret Chen called me at 4. "Devlin, I'm getting calls from reporters. They want to verify the donation amount." "What did you tell them?" "The truth. $2 million to the Adela Johnson Memorial Foundation, established this morning for pancreatic cancer research." "Good. There's something else. 3 different venture capital firms have called asking if HJ Consulting is accepting new limited partners." Limited partners. That meant other investors wanted to give me their money to invest for them. "How much money are we talking about?" The first firm mentioned 50 million. The second said 100 million. The third wouldn't give me a number over the phone. I sat down heavily in one of the conference center's leather chairs. This morning, I'd been a retired accountant grieving his wife. Now I was apparently managing hundreds of millions of dollars for some of Silicon Valley's biggest players. "Margaret, I think I'm in over my head." "No, you're not. You're exactly where you've been for 6 years. The only difference is now everyone knows about it." At 5 p.m., Rebecca Martinez called. Payflow's CFO sounded tired. "Mr. Johnson, I hope you don't mind me calling directly." "Of course not, Rebecca. I wanted you to know that the team is struggling a bit. Today's events have been a lot to process." "How is Steven handling it?" "Honestly, not great. He's been in his office with the door closed since he got back from the conference. Won't talk to anyone." "And the business?" "The Series C funding is still solid. Sequoia isn't backing out, but there's definitely some awkwardness around the office." "What kind of awkwardness?" Rebecca was quiet for a moment. "Mr. Johnson, can I speak honestly?" "Please do." "A lot of the team is pretty upset about how Steven's been treating you. We all knew his father was staying with him, but we didn't know the details. After hearing your speech today, they're questioning his character." "Something like that. It's hard to respect a leader who doesn't respect his own family." That evening, I took an Uber back to Steven's house. His Tesla was in the driveway, but the house was dark except for his home office. I found him sitting at his desk, staring at his laptop screen. The TechCrunch article was open, along with about 15 other browser tabs showing news coverage of the day's events. "How are you doing?" I asked. Steven didn't look up. "I've had better days." "I imagine so. Do you have any idea what you've done?" I sat down in the chair across from his desk. "I think so. My reputation is destroyed. My team thinks I'm some kind of monster. The board is questioning my leadership." "Are they wrong to question it?" Steven finally looked at me. His eyes were red like he'd been crying. Or maybe just staring at screens too long. "I've worked for 15 years to build this company. 15 years of 18-hour days, missed vacations, failed relationships, everything I've sacrificed to get here." "I know. And you destroyed it in 5 minutes on stage." "Steven, I didn't destroy anything. I just told the truth." "The truth about what?" "About what you've become." Steven closed his laptop. "What have I become? Someone who values success more than relationships. Someone who's embarrassed by where he came from. That's not true, isn't it? When's the last time you called me just to talk? Not about my medications or my living situation, just to talk." Steven was quiet. "When's the last time you mentioned your mother without me bringing her up first?" More silence. "When's the last time you treated me like your father instead of your burden?" Steven put his head in his hands. "I don't know how to fix this." "Start by answering one question honestly. What question? Do you want me to leave because it's better for me, or because it's easier for you? Stephen was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Easier for me. Thank you for being honest. So what happens now? I stood up from the chair. Now you decide what kind of man you want to be, and I decide whether I want to stick around to see it. 2 weeks later, Stephen knocked on my bedroom door at 7 a.m. Dad, can we talk? I was already awake reading Adela's copy of Pride and Prejudice, still dog-eared at page 237, where Elizabeth Bennet finally tells Mr. Darcy what she thinks of him. Stephen sat on the edge of the bed holding 2 cups of coffee. He handed me 1 black, no sugar, exactly how I'd been drinking it for 50 years. I've been thinking about what you said, about what kind of man I want to be. And I think I want to be the kind of man Mom would be proud of. She was always proud of you, Stephen. Even after. But being proud and being disappointed aren't mutually exclusive. Stephen sipped his coffee. I called Janet Morrison yesterday, canceled the assisted living consultations. Thank you. I also talked to the team about respect, about how we treat people, especially people who can't fight back. How did that go? Better than I expected. Rebecca said the whole office has been talking about it since the conference. Apparently my treatment of you was noticeable. I wasn't surprised. Disrespect has a way of spreading through an organization like cancer. There's something else, Stephen said. I want to ask you something, and I want you to be honest. Okay. Would you consider investing in Payflow? Not as my father, but as HJ Consulting, a real investment with real terms and real expectations. I set down my coffee cup. Why? Because I think we could use your guidance, not just your money, your judgment. You want me involved in the business? I want you involved in my life. The business is just part of that. For the first time in months, I saw something in Stephen's face that reminded me of the boy who used to practice his school presentations in front of me and Adela. What would that look like? Monthly board meetings, strategy sessions, maybe an office at the Payflow headquarters if you want one. An office. Nothing fancy, but somewhere you could work, somewhere the team could come to you for advice. I thought about it. 6 years of investing from my kitchen table, managing millions of dollars on an old Nokia phone. Maybe it was time to come out of the shadows. What about the assisted living conversation? The grocery receipts? The embarrassment at company events? Stephen's face flushed. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I let success make me into someone I don't recognize. Apology accepted. But Stephen? Yeah? This is your last chance. If you ever treat me like a burden again, I won't just donate your inheritance. I'll donate mine too. Stephen's eyes widened. Yours? $12.5 million, Stephen. All of it. To charity. You'd really do that? Try me. Stephen was quiet for a moment. Then he started laughing. Not a mean laugh. The kind of laugh that comes from relief and recognition. Mom would have loved this, he said. Loved what?